I love movies, and another thing I love equally as much are movies about movies, and there are plenty of them. My boy Stevie has done it recently, so has QT, Paul, and David, and there's just something special when a filmmaker makes a movie about films, where they get to explore the magic of movies and the process of making one. You know that it's coming from the heart and that everything you see is authentic. And since we are talking about movies, let's talk about one of the best films from last year, author director Damien Chazelle's masterpiece Babylon. An absolutely stunning film that left me speechless. Oh boy, where do I start? There is so much to talk about this gorgeous piece of art. Okay, let's start with what a chaotic and cocaine fueled ride this film was. It has a vibrant and youthful charm to it that's depicted through its cinematography. I mean, the camera here actually moves like crazy, capturing some of the wildest and most creative shots through cranes and handheld. The crane shots helped me feel the grandiosity of the scale of this story. Chazelle really was painting on a supremely large canvas here, and the handheld shots grounded everything. The camera is active, taking on a life of its own, always moving and whizzing. Chazelle's iconic whip pans are made to feel more than welcome as they frantically move from person to person, giving every scene it's in a sense of hysteria and melancholy. And most of the film is like that. It has some of the most crazy and batshit ideas thrown on screen, and somehow it just works. I mean, in what other film are you going to get to see Margot Robbie fight a snake? That opening party scene of this movie is the perfect way to start this film, as it sets the tone for the absolute drug filled, paranoid thrill ride this movie is going to be. There's nothing you don't see here. You get to see some of the most unthinkable ideas executed here with sheer conviction. The frenzy this film makes us feel primarily stems from the actual filmmaking of the film. And not this film, but the films made in Babylon. We get an insider look of the functioning of 1920s Hollywood and just how crazy it was to shoot movies back then. The extremely ambitious camera movements and warm tones of the film are reminiscent of the work of Paul Thomas Anderson. And though long takes are overdone in films, Damien here uses the seldom long takes to take us through the environment and give us a glimpse into this madness of the world of motion pictures. It's meticulously blocked and staged with purpose. We witness all this through the eyes of Margot Robbie's character, Nellie Leroy, as we witness the chaotic process of filmmaking through her eyes, viewing everything from the lens of childlike wonder. It's clear that this was how Damien saw this world, and it shines through brighter than any of the spotlights in this film.
I mean, I've always been sort of a fan of Hollywood history and old Hollywood. But I think the first thing that really sort of sparked this as a project was reading a certain kind of couple of things about this era that just really sort of threw me for a loop, that did not feel like they comported to what I had in my mind, what I realized was sort of a misconception in my mind of the early days of Hollywood. When you sort of dig into the muck a little bit, you would hear things about just the sort of the turbulence of the time, the amount of drugs floating through Los Angeles at the time, the kind of recklessness with which movies were made, at least compared to today.
Out of the countless iconic scenes that comprise this film, my favorite would probably have to be the first day of sound filming. The way that entire sequence is edited is a masterclass in film editing. It perfectly communicates the feeling of absolute mania as everyone tries to get just one shot perfectly. It captures the process of filmmaking with such authenticity that is also extremely hilarious to watch as everyone loses their goddamn minds trying to get just one shot right. Filmmaking is a process that requires efficient coordination of many people to be able to get the shots you need the way you want them. And that entire scene of the first day of sound filming is some of the most sweatiest, most intense, and equally funny scenes I've ever seen in a movie. It also allows for some fantastic editing, as the repetition creates a rhythm which we are familiarized with that adds to the comedy and ferocity of the scene. Another aspect of the film that adds to the energetic chaos of it is Justin Hurwitz's hypnotic score. This genius has composed some of the most memorable scores in Chazelle's previous movies, and he absolutely positively delivers one of his best works in this film. The film is a jazz-drenched dance party. Just like in films such as Whiplash and La La Land, Chazelle's love for jazz makes its way here, and we also see how it makes its way into the films of that era. Babylon is a look into the wildness of 1920s Hollywood, but the film makes frequent time jumps to show the progression of the industry over the years, and this is when the film starts to tackle its darker themes. Sure, Babylon celebrates cinema and the magic of making movies, but if I am to sound dramatic, it's a love letter to cinema and a suicide note to Hollywood. There are moments in this film where you really feel how special movies are. The final scene of the film and the intercutting sequence of Nellie's first scene, and Spike Jonze has an unhinged German director in the film attempting to capture the perfect shot just left me bewildered. In moments like this, the motion pictures really felt like a miracle, something transcendental. Seeing an audience's reaction to watching a film inside a movie theater is an otherworldly feeling. But Babylon has equal vitriol for the industry as much as love it has for the medium. It refuses to shy away from the darker side of Hollywood. We get to see how replaceable people are, how they can be on top one moment and be thrown out the next second when they become irrelevant, when technology and innovation of the medium can leave behind its former masters. How one has to maintain a false public perception to remain relevant and likable in the audience's eyes. An ever so changing audience whose taste continues to change and evolve. An audience that determines the careers of these stars and their longevity. Despite the ecstatic and tumultuous tone of the film, it is in these moments that the film slows down and takes its time to really sit down and be with the characters, the flawed and vulnerable people at the heart of this story. The camera isn't afraid to get too close to a face, to really see these people for who they are on the inside. It makes for a huge contrast with the loud and flashy nature of the film, but it's what makes the movie work. It tells us why we should care about these people driving the narrative, or rather, being driven by the narrative. This is primarily reflected in the most introspective character of the film, Jack Conrad, played by Brad Pitt. Jack is someone who has been in the industry long enough to revel in its insanity, but is also someone who deeply cares about the art of cinema. Along with Manny, Jack is a vessel through which Chazelle expresses his undying love for the medium. Film is a high art that has the power and ability to mean something to people. It can be bigger than the people making it, and that's beautifully conveyed as we realize but the makers of these movies are eventually going to die and will be replaced by a new generation of filmmakers and storytellers inspired by the previous generation. But even in death, whenever someone is visible on screen for just the tiniest moment, they become alive once again. We see multiple people die during the shooting of these movies, and these deaths are treated like they are nothing. Hollywood sucks these people in, takes what they have to offer, and spits them out. There is no empathy for the lives of these people. It just goes to show how apathetic and brutal the industry is towards the people making these films, and how the actual films are much greater than the individual people. Even the biggest stars have a limited run, and their run is determined by the audience who indirectly govern the entire film industry. We linger on the faces of people when their film is a flop. We see someone put themselves out on a platter and is rejected by the audience. The film takes its time, slows down, and sits with that person and allows us to feel their heartbreak, to let us feel the melancholy inside them. Sure, there are times when we are overwhelmed by the magic of movies, but sometimes that magic, that spark, can be lost. Nothing is permanent, except maybe the medium as it outlasts the lives of everyone working behind it. You will probably be forgotten, but you also may be remembered. The people who commit themselves to the industry end up with much worse and unhappy lives, whereas the people who are wise enough to walk out of it are the ones who flourish creatively and remain internally fulfilled. That final scene of the film left me absolutely speechless. I kid you not, I was unable to speak because I was so blown away and overwhelmed by what I had seen. My brain was unable to comprehend the images on screen. It truly was an unforgettable experience. And I have talked so much about the film till now, and yet it feels like I have barely scratched the surface. Babylon is a film that's wild and chaotic, yet also unexpected and ballsy. Its gargantuan 3 hour runtime breezes by. This movie feels like the love child of Martin Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights, yet somehow manages to feel completely original. It's crazy to me that a studio backed a project like this, that a studio decided to believe in the vision and conviction of Damien Chazelle. And it breaks my heart to see that not enough people watched it in theaters. And my worry is that the disastrous financial performance of this masterpiece will not give the studios the confidence to back many other such artists with the wildest and most extravagant ideas. Babylon is a film for the ages, made with so much passion and is clearly made by someone in absolute mastery and control of their craft. It might sound a tad hyperbolic, but it reminds me why I love movies. And if you ask me, that right there is a sign of a damn good movie. Thank you so much for watching. Hey guys, honestly, I expected this to be a short video, but this to me felt more like a ramble than a review of Babylon. But when I just started writing about this movie, I just did not stop and I just wrote everything that I had to talk about on paper, and this is the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I want to know what your thoughts on Babylon are. Please comment down below. I would absolutely love to discuss this movie with you. It is just one of my favorite movies ever now. And yeah, thank you for watching. And like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Help the channel out. It means the world to me. So yeah, see you in the next video. Bye bye.